right then, lads. Welcome back to Cossy's Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. We are back again this evening with the Arsenal evening show. I'm about to shift this show for the third time, and I'm gonna push it at 10 p.m. The reason I'm gonna push it at 10 p.m. is I'm always fixed during day, and so at times I do not get time to prepare. Sorry for this. Sorry for this. I could just right. So I'll be watching Manchester United Atlanta, and then I'm gonna be discussing and talking about the striker situation at Arsenal. We've been linked with a couple of strikers. Actually, it's not only Luka Jovic, but Luka Jovic is one of them. That have been linked with Arsenal. But we are really gonna dive into the striker situation because for me, it's one that we could deal with in summer. I got no problems with that. I got no questions about that or anything like that. But we could have dealt with it in the summer. There were so many. I was watching FTV and Turkish was saying that there were so many strikers that were available for mediocre money. I mean, you could get Patson Daka, you could get an Ivan Toney, you could get anyone available. Otson Edward was available, and I think all those strikers were available at very, 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 very low, pennies, very, very low prices. But the truth is now we've got to look into the bigger picture and we've got to, confront the truth and reality. Does Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang make us a better team anymore? And Alexander Lacazette is leaving in the summer. However much we want him to start in every game, does he make us, does he guarantee us anything? Is he going to stay at the club? I doubt. So we're going to be speaking about Luka Jovic and probably, the bigger picture about Arsenal and our striker situation. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let's get the party started. All right, so let's get started. Let's get started. Let's start off with the two main strikers at Arsenal, because it's the fact that Lacazette's contract is running down and the fact that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has not provided anything to the team ever since his new contract is absolutely worrying. But for me, what is even more worrying is we still have a long way to go until the end of the season, and both of our strikers don't seem to be, we are not sure who should be starting where, who should be starting ahead of who, and questions like that. We know Mikel is picking Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang over Alexander Lacazette. And of course, I think the reason for me is clear. He wants to pick the player who's got more time, more credit in the bank, more time on his contract, rather than a player who's gonna live in the summer. And I said that during my preview, that the reason as to why he picks Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is absolutely not connected to the fact that he hates Lacazette, like many people think. I don't think he hates Lacazette. I don't think he hates Lacazette. I think he's looking into it. He's looking at one of his players getting massive wages, and he's like, "How do I bench him? How do I bench him? Come on." He's the player that earns the most amount of money. Come on. And of course, the reputation of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is also a very, very difficult one because he's a superstar. He's a superstar, not only for us, but everywhere he's been a striker that scores goals. He's been a player that actually bangs in the goals. So if you think about it, if you get the grip together, it might not be. I mean, if you are a manager, I'm not a manager, so I really do not understand when it comes to picking, players and choices and how droppable some players are, and how undroppable other players are. But the truth is, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is a hard one to. I think in that Arsenal side, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is the hardest player to drop. Maybe followed by Bukayo Saka, because what Saka is doing at Arsenal is magic. It's absolute magic. So it's hard to. It's gonna be hard to drop. Bukayo Saka as well. But the rest of the players are droppable, and Aubameyang is actually not undroppable really, because you can drop him, your manager, you can drop him, but it's hard it's gonna be very hard for any manager to drop him. And the reason is very clear. I mean, all the time you want to drop him, you think about the salary, he's captain, and he's your best goal scorer, right? He's our best goal scorer. However much Lacazette really engages play and things like that, I think when it comes to who is the better goal scorer, who's the better goal poacher, who's the better finisher, who's more clinical, then you're gonna think about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. So my question in this video is, who should we actually play as our main striker until the end of the season? It's a very, very big question. It's a very, very big question. Who should we, who should Arsenal play as striker until the end of the season? Should we play, should we be playing Alexander Lacazette? He's good. I think he's more, he's on fire, better form than Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Or should we be playing Aubameyang? Because the advantage with playing Aubameyang is you hope that he's gonna gain his form back. You hope that he regains his form, he regains his rhythm, and then starts scoring those goals on a more consistent basis. That's it. But so I mean, if you put into consideration, who do you take? That is my question to you in the chat. So let me know. Is it Lacazette we go with? Is it Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang we go with? And then definitely I'll get to answer your questions if you have any in the chat. But for me, in this discussion, especially with strikers, I think there's one thing we have to get clear. I don't think Arsenal will get a striker in the summer. In January. I don't think so. Unless we are going to go for an option B, we are going to go for a weak option, we are going to go for a plan B, we are going to go for a panic buy in January. I don't think any sensible strikers are going to be up for sale this January. In the January transfer window, it's very hard. I mean, you might think about it. We brought in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang in January. I mean, I don't know whether it was a miracle or it wasn't, but we brought him in January. Andrea Shavin, January. Who else was who else did we bring in January as a star player? Most of the big transfers really happen in the summer. That is when most of the big transfers happen. So if I think about it, the more I think about it, the more I put into consideration that getting a decent striker in January is going to be very difficult. We've been linked with Ollie Watkins. He's not moving in this, he's not moving in January. Calvert-Lewin is not moving in January. Ollie Watkins is not moving in January. I don't know with Luka Jovic. Because Madrid probably thought they could just get him from Frankfurt and take him and do the job. I've always thought him, held him in high regard as a striker that could, probably be, useful at a club like Real Madrid, because I think he's clinical. I just rate him. I don't know why, but I just rate him. And I think as a goal poacher, he would have worked for Real Madrid, but it didn't work out. It didn't work out with at Real Madrid, and then he eventually had to leave. So he eventually has to leave the club and probably find football somewhere else. Now there are two things there. With Luka Jovic, you could have a player who is like Alexis Sanchez. You bring him to the Premier League, you bring him at Arsenal, and he shines. Because it happens. There's something happened with Alexis Sanchez. He's at Barcelona. He's struggling. You bring him at Arsenal, and boom, he's your hero. He's your man, and everybody's like, "What the hell? What's going on?" We didn't know he could shine like this. And for me, that is absolutely what Arsenal want. But you could also think about it in the wrong terms, and that's what I'm really afraid of. We could think about it in the wrong term, bring him in, and it doesn't work out. It's like, look, I don't believe he was a one-season wonder, but we could bring in Luka Jovic. If he doesn't shine, then what happens next? Because that's a big question. That's also a very, very big question. If it doesn't shine, if you sign Luka Jovic and things actually do not work out for him, where do you go from there? Do you just chase him out? Do you just accept the loss? So for me, look, I think this summer is more of creativity and goal scoring, regardless of the manager we have. Because even if you brought in Antonio Conte, I don't think in January it's going to have much impact on players coming in. Yeah, he might have, he might pull off a few strings because he's a decent manager and things like that. But I don't see, I do not really see, any manager coming in at Arsenal, and then hugely influencing the whoever comes in January. So it's gonna be in the summer. It might be in the summer. It has to be in the summer where we decide who comes in, who doesn't come in, and things and a little bit of things like that. But to put into context the discussion and the debate, Lacazette leaving in the summer is a wrong move for Arsenal. I thought we could get some money from Alexander Lacazette last summer, and look, we didn't look at it as a priority, but earlier it was. We were struggling. To get goals, right? So Aubameyang and Lacazette, they're our two main sources of goals. One doesn't really start, according to Mikel Arteta, and the other who starts does not really, give us, much going forward. So whoever comes in then has to be better than these two, right? For me, he's definitely going to have a higher ceiling, because I don't expect us to sign a 30-year-old striker. It would be hilarious. It would be absolutely hilarious. So I don't expect us to sign a 30-year-old striker or a 50-year-old striker or a 60-year-old. I think we'll bring in someone young, someone with a higher ceiling, someone with with a lot of talent and a lot of room for expansion. So in the end, Luka Jovic could be the answer. I believe in him. I just hold him in high regard. I believe in him. I believe he's got what it takes. He has what it takes to become, a very, very good striker. Premier League build, Premier League success. There's a big question there whether he can be a Premier League access. A Premier League access, success. But you never know. Nevertheless, Dan says, because the problem of Arsenal is not the striker, but a manager who does not know how to use our players. Get a good manager with the same players, and see the difference. But again, Dan, I mean, you make a great point. But still, I talked about Mikel today and why I think he's failed and things like that. But in the end, you will need a striker. There is no question about that. You will need a striker. One, you're gonna need a striker to replace the existing strikers, the likes of Lacazette and Aubameyang, who are growing faster, who are growing old faster. And then the other thing is you will need a striker who gives you reliable goals. Even if you change this system and make it better, I don't think Aubameyang is still here for a very long time. I don't think he's gonna be here probably for 1 or 2 more seasons, and then he's gonna leave it. And he's gonna leave the stage, and progress with his career and probably move on. So Jovic, good player. I like him, but I feel like, why don't we go for someone who's banging it at the moment? Because if you're going for a striker and you go for a player who's who's getting regular time, who's been scoring the goals, I mean, it's just a matter of polishing and fitting them into the system. But if you get a striker like Luka Jovic, there's a lot you've got to do. Inside him is a good player. Inside him is that kind of player that, just did whatever he did, right? But you might then need to, just explore more and more. That is my problem. You might need to explore more and more in order to get the best out of a player like Luka Jovic. You might. But look, I think for me, next season, Aubameyang shouldn't be our main striker. I'm sorry to say this, but he's getting high wages. It will be his last year on the contract. He doesn't deserve to get another contract, seriously, and he shouldn't be our main striker next season. We need to get in someone that blends in well with this team. Probably someone like an Ivan Toney, or probably someone like an Oli Watkins, someone who blends in, someone who's reliable, someone who's who can get the back of the team, score braces, score winners. And maybe get also hat tricks, because with Aubameyang, I don't see any more hat tricks. I don't see any more braces in him. Yeah, he might get 1 or 2 in a season, but I think we need to do better. I absolutely think we need to do better. So for me, with the striker situation, I still insist we go for someone better. Manager is needed. That's according to Anu. And say who can trust Arteta with all those funds to sign players that fit a system he's not really aware of. That's according to Frederick. Cossy, I don't think JOVIC can give us what Arsenal. But JOVIC is a good player. JOVIC is a good player. I don't know, but I just think JOVIC is a good player. I mean, it all depends. It all depends, but I just have this gut feeling that JOVIC is a good player. He's had his good years. He's had his good seasons where he's scored the goals, and he's more really like of that kind of in-box striker around the box and not around the penalty area. A striker that needs you to supply him, right? Needs you to supply him. And maybe probably tomorrow we should be thinking about our creativity problem. Tomorrow we should be thinking about our creativity problem and how we've got to solve it. Because for me, this team is not creating. It's not creating. I would have said it's not creating enough, right? I would have said it's not creating enough, but it's not creating. It's not creating. I'm still really struggling, to find. I'm still really struggling to find, points that really tell me that this team is creating enough chances. This team is doing well in terms of feeding our strikers. Because for me, for creativity, it is Saka, Odegaard, and the fullbacks. Our fullbacks this season are not creating anything. Odegaard and Smith Rowe and Saka, I think they try, but not good enough, right? Not good enough. And that's why I think, just like we got a senior player, not really not a senior player, but just like we have a decent player at centre back, we should have also gone for a decent or an experienced midfielder. I strongly feel that we should have gone for a decent, experienced midfielder, attacking midfielder. It could have really worked for us, but I don't know what you people think. I don't know what you think. For me, I think the creativity is still very low, very low, right? Very low. Because I don't think JOVIC can work for us. So look, it's more of sharing opinions. I think JOVIC can work for us. I think that kind of it's more like a Raul Jimenez kind of striker. I mean, the same build as Alexander Lacazette. I don't know if if Lacazette will ever become that kind of striker that is reliable somewhere. He was reliable at Lyon, and God, I was dying to have him. I was dying to have him at Arsenal. It never worked out. It never worked out. We've got to agree to that. We've got to to get our thoughts together. It never worked out. We wanted, I'm among those people who wanted it to work. I wanted it to work out for him. I wanted him to be, a crazily big striker, but it didn't work. It has not worked out for him. He's run out of contract, and then he's gonna leave. We shouldn't be thinking about Lacazette now. We shouldn't be. Maybe utilize him for this season, as you think about who comes in, right? As you think about who comes in. Because for me, when Lacazette leaves, he goes with Aubameyang's 50%, right? So we shall only have a half striker in Aubameyang. You could think about, I thought about Gabriel Martinelli as a striker. I thought about Martinelli as a striker, of course, and the likes of Watkins and the others. But I don't know what Mikel Arteta thinks about Gabriel Martinelli. When he brings him on as a winger. We've always seen him. We've always thought he is a winger, right? I've always thought he is a winger, but his finishing is actually so clinical, and for me, that doesn't really guarantee that he should be starting as a striker, because he's very clinical, like many people want to say. I think a striker or a player being clinical. You could be clinical and you could be coming out of the sides and you're clinical. I love his directness, so it really works with us. If he starts on, he starts on the wings, on the wider, sides of the pitch, because it's very, very direct. So you expect a lot of pressure, a lot of creativity from your sides, because at the moment we are so dull, right? We are very, very dull, especially our width does not add to anything. The midfield is dead, and the width, which we should be a complement in modern football. We should be complementing our creativity, is actually dead. So you have you have fullbacks that are not crossing in balls, and they are also not cutting back the balls. Then you have a midfield that is not looking for through passes, and that's why in other games that we have played, I've not really been convinced. Apart from, because look at that that Spurs game, the Emil Smith Rowe goal is not a through ball, right? But the creativity really comes from wide from Saka, which is good. And then you have the counter attack for the Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang goal, which I think was top notch. Then you have the Saka goal. Actually, the Saka goal. Do I even remember the Saka goal? Yes, I do. Again, it's a counter attack. So if you try to play on the break, we've been doing that well. But you need to create chances. You need to be. We need to be creative. And the moment we are dead, we are absolutely dead. So I think whether Edu likes it or not, what's going to happen in the summer is they're going to have to redo, or they're going to have to undo the work they put up. They're going to have to undo it. They're going to have to go back and then think of a creative midfielder. Actually, I think around 2 creative midfielders, which is going to put Odegaard and Smith Rowe in a very, very difficult situation. Because for me, I really didn't get it why they sign Odegaard and Smith and give Smith Rowe a shot number 10, a new contract, and then sign Odegaard. That shows you that because these players are almost on the same level, right? Yes, Odegaard is clear of Smith Rowe, but if you're grooming Smith Rowe as to take up that responsibility, then he should be bringing in someone more experienced, so that Smith Rowe becomes an understudy. I think we totally failed at that. We totally failed at that. We should have brought in a number 10 with more experience, so that Smith Rowe, then the idea of Smith Rowe being an understudy works well. Because now you have Odegaard and Smith Rowe doing the same thing, giving you the same thing, and with the manager who plays them together, which I think is a great idea, because the more you play them together, the more you have chances of one of them having a good game and maybe creating 1 or 2 chances. But I think what's going to happen in the summer, is Arsenal are going to come out and get in a number 10 or get in a creative player. If Mikel Arteta happens to leave before the summer, a new manager is going to ask for a creative midfielder. They're going to ask for someone who takes more risks. They're going to need someone who takes more, more shots at goal. They're going to need someone as Odegaard develops. So you're going to have 3 number 10s, and that could be a little bit of risk, because we could lose one of our best players in Smith Rowe or probably Martin Odegaard, and that is my problem. That has always been my problem. If Arsenal as a club is depending on only Saka and Smith Rowe to produce passes for the striker, that's a problem for us. Look, I think they're the only players available. I mean, you can't say that now. You can't say otherwise. Smith Rowe, Odegaard, Saka, those are the 3 players that do create chances for us. And you can see that however much you want to put the burden, however much you want to feel their shoulders and make them carry this on their shoulders, it's too heavy for them. It's too heavy for them. You need to balance the squad. They talked about balancing the squad when they had brought in the likes of when they had brought in the likes of Ben White, Nuno Tavares, and a couple of other youngsters. And Mikel was talking about bringing in experienced players to balance the team. I think that is what we had to do. Bring in some more experienced players, bring in some people that do understand what to do. But having a bunch of kids, to create for you chances, to score for you goals, to man games, it's unfair. It's absolutely unfair. Having Xhaka and Partey, as a pivot, to shield the youngsters. For me, it's like you're shielding nothing. You're shielding nothing. I would have preferred Lokonga Partey, and in front of them, someone like James Maddison or someone like an Angel, Angel Correa. Not really Angel Correa. What's the name of that guy at Inter Milan? Joaquin Correa, right? So I would have preferred something like that. But a balanced squad with maybe 7 young players and 4 experienced players. But having a group of kids absolutely doesn't work. So I think if Edu, look, if Edu doesn't want to get sacked, what he's gonna do in the summer, he will go to solve creativity and a striker. He's gonna sign in number 10. So where do we go from there? What happens to Martin Odegaard? What happens to Smith Rowe? And then he's gonna sign a striker. So with a striker, I'm gonna back him. Maybe it wasn't much of a priority. I said that in the summer. It wasn't really much of a priority, but a creative midfielder was a priority, and we have just extended that by another season. We've just extended that by another 38 game weeks. 38. Now Saka is injured. Where do we look now? And for me, look, Anu. That is some of the reason. Those are some of the reasons. That's why I think our transfer window was bogus. It's one of the reasons. Because for me, it just made this team. I don't know. Did it make us a little bit better? Because when we have lost Saka, okay, Pepe gets to play on the right hand side of the pitch, and maybe Aubameyang to the left, and then Lacazette through the middle, or Martinelli to the left, Pepe to the right, right? That would really work. But if again you lose one of Pepe and Martinelli or Aubameyang, so look, squad depth is not there in the team. Squad depth. I've spoken about this. It's a song I'm really tired of. Squad depth, but I think with Saka being out, Martinelli should use this chance. However much, I always complain, give Martinelli a chance. He needs some game time. But in the end, he's got to man up. He's got to, take responsibility, take his chances. Now Saka is injured. It's time for Gabriel Martinelli, right? It's time for Gabriel Martinelli. And personally, I would love to see Martinelli play as a right inverted winger, because he's got that brevity to cut inside, take shots. I look at him as a Mason Greenwood. Surprisingly, I look at him as a Mason Greenwood. I look at him as a player that is almost on the same level as Mason Greenwood. So I think it's gonna be a chance for Saka to it's for Martinelli. Saka out, Martinelli gets a chance. If he uses it, you never know. Martinelli, Saka, that's it, right? That's it. Calvert-Lewin, Isak, or Luka Jovic, who are you choosing? I have a problem with. I don't have a problem with any of them. My problem with Calvert-Lewin is the overhype. The overhype. I think the same. The same goes for. I would say the same goes for Alexander Isak. They're all very, very good players. They're very, very good. But there's that kind of hype that has been given to them. Because for me, Isak is a very good player. Atlanta too much United now. United could get back, but at the moment, they're really, really struggling. They're really struggling. I pity United, and I really pity Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So I told you I'll be watching this game as we discuss our own problems and issues. Thanks everybody for watching, and make sure you just give me a like on the video. So, guys, let's be honest. with each other, and let's be honest with ourselves, right? I think Alexander Isak is a good player, good striker. I like his mobility, especially on the ball. His body language and his ability to progress the ball forward and things like that. I really love it. So he's really talented. Kevin Lewin, I just feel like he's out of the three. I feel like Kevin Lewin is getting. He's a good player, but I just feel like he's getting that overhype, and that means you're gonna pay over the top. You're gonna pay a premium that is actually over the top for him. That is my worry, and that's my problem. So Calvin Lewin knows the league. Isak is in Spain. Jovic has been to Germany and Spain. So Calvin Lewin knows the league, but it's gonna come expensive. And I think if I wouldn't pay more than 50 million for Calvin Lewin. I don't think it's going to cost anything less than 60, right? I don't think it's going to cost anything like 60 or 70 million. So for Calvin Lewin, no, overhyped, a little bit overhyped. Good player, but a little bit overhyped. So the premium could be overwhelming. Luka Jovic, I could bet my money on. Look, 2 seasons ago, I could bet my money on him. I could sign him. Right now, I'm skeptical. He's been at Madrid, a struggling Real Madrid, by the way. To put that into context, no, with fans, the one thing we do not consider is at times our teams are struggling, and we want new players to come in and fit in, and just become heroes and solve the problems of our clubs. It doesn't really work like that. It doesn't really work like that. So out of the three, Calvin Lewin, Jovic, and Isak, you know what? Isak is a young player. He's got a bigger ceiling than any of the others. I would go. Why not? I could go for Alexander Isak. Yeah, I could go for Alexander Isak. I just believe, I just believe he could actually work for us. So Alexander Isak is the man out of the three. Of course, if it were for if you were to ask me which player I think is suitable, I think Ole Watkins is. Played in the league, played in the championship, very young. Of course, the fact that he's English guarantees a lot of money, to be asked for. But I still think Arsenal in the end, could get that done over the top. All right, guys, smash a like on the video, subscribe. That has been our discussion for Arsenal, even in Arsenal. I'm gonna continue watching the Manchester United game, and then obviously we'll speak up again tomorrow. I might have a busy day tomorrow, but I'm gonna put out a series of previews, especially for the Friday game. So I'm gonna put out a series of previews. Make sure you watch that, and I'll speak to you in the next one.